Who's your emergency contact? Who should we notify in the case of death? Welcome to the USP, where I've spent the last 2+ decades of my life. Right now, I'm in the SMU program. I'm just taking you through the course of my experience. This is not secondhand knowledge. This is me actually being there, living the life day in and day out. In the prior video, I explained to you how I had to get myself moved out. Like I said, there was nothing wrong with the cellie that I had outside that he was a homosexual. But for me, I still abide by the politics. Even though my people don't, they trust me to make my own judgment and I'm my own man, still, I feel that I have a responsibility and obligation to lead by examples. So if I'm pushing a line, I can't push that line unless I'm living that line. I can't enforce that. I can't enforce any rules or any laws that I myself is breaking. So I understand that there was nothing wrong with him as far as his paperwork checked out, but I also understand the politics. So I got moved out. Now I'm living with my own people, my homeboy Tran. Part of the reason why we didn't have our own rec cage as far as the Asian Islander go is because there's hardly any Asian Islander over there. At the time that I was in Lewisburg, there may be only a handful, 5 or 6 of us at one time, but we're all spread out to all the different units. But before I get on with that, I want to take you back to when I was in the dry cell. When I got caught up, getting high or whatever, and they put me in the dry cell. I was there for 3 days, 72 hours observation. It's just a rec cage. It's inside a building in one of the units or whatever. They have a designated area for that. But it's 2 rec cage. They had me in one and my cellie in the other. They stripped us out, put us all in a paper jumpsuit, and gave us a paper blanket. And gave us some booty, which is like a hairnet that you put over your feet so your feet don't get caked up by all the dirt and grime that's on the floor. But in this particular cell that we're in, it's just a cage, maybe 6 by 6, no, a little bit bigger than that. We'll just say 8 by 8 cage. All 4 is all cages. And they have 3 shifts of 2 COs watching us 8 hours at a time. So we're being monitored for 24 hours at a time for the next 3 days. And while I'm there, of course, this is the first week of May. So in Lewisburg, it's still kind of chilly the first week of May. And the paper blanket they give you is not going to warm you up. And while you're sleeping, you can't have your hands under the blanket. They want to see your hands exposed at all times. So you have to sleep like at an awkward position where you're trying to bundle up because you're cold, but they're not letting you bundle up. You got to put your hand outside the blanket. You got to keep your head outside the blanket because because they assume already that you have something to hide from them. So they want to make sure that they're able to watch you and observe you every minute of every day for the next 3 days. Well, when you're just sitting there hanging out, these CEOs, they're sitting there watching you or whatever, it's only natural to strike up a conversation. And I just got there. This is only like my 3rd day there and 2nd or 3rd day there. So I'm curious about the ongoings of how the SMU is and what it's all about. Well, one of the stories that the staff shared with me is what I'm about to share with you right now. When they first opened the SMU, or even till this day, they don't give us any razors to shave with. You can't get no nail clippers. You can't get no trimmers. When you need to cut your nails or shave your beard or shave your head or whatever, you get put on the list, and they'll go accordingly to whoever's on the list each cell. Maybe they might be able to pull 3 or 4 sales out a day to go get their nails clipped or haircut or whatever. But when you go in, you're in another cage. Like the cage that they have for you is always just enough for standing room only. But the cage that we go to get our, to use the clippers, it's maybe a half a foot in diameter wider than the regular one. So 2 of you can stand in there and help cut each other's hair or shave or whatever. But like I said, they don't give you any razor blades to shave with. They give you what's called magic shave. If you're African American, you're black, you know what magic shave is. But to a lot of us that are not African American or black, me, I never knew what magic shave was until I went to Lewisburg and I had to try to use it because there's no razors. Well, anyway, all the white boys when they first came in, they all bucked. The racist ones, they're like, man, we ain't trying to use no shit. But, but they're the ones, the gang members that are there. Whereas the brand, the NLR, the ACs, those are the most, those are the ones that were prominent in the system since I've been in there. When they make a declaration, when they make a call about what they're doing, especially if it's the brand, the AB from California, all the rest of the white boys that's living in that block, that's living in that tier, or living on the compound in the prison as a whole, has to abide by it. If they don't, then they're going to be marked to get hit. And so these guys, they were bucking that they wasn't being able to get razors to shave their beard. So they bucked and they held the sales. But like I said, Lewisburg, when it first opened, they weren't trying to compromise with any inmates, with any prisoners, with any convicts or gang members. They didn't give a fuck. Their mentality was, this is our rules and this is how it's gonna go. Regardless if you like it or not, regardless if it's justifiable or not, regardless if it has any common sense in it, regardless if it's even reasonable. Well, the white dudes, they didn't want to use magic shave. So they bucked to be able to get a razor. Well, the story that I was told from the staff was they spent 24 hours going to each cell and extracting every single white boy that was participating in the group demonstration. Now, you ask yourself if a grown-ass man that wants to shave is unreasonable to ask for a razor. When you're in the shoe, you can get a razor, but the razor comes in. When you ask for the razor, they bring it, they turn your ID card, letting you know you got razors. So when they come back and pick up the razor, if the razor blade is missing or the thing is alternated or whatever, then they come in and extract you from your cell or demand that you return the razor blade. There was no reason why the SMU couldn't abide by that, couldn't do that. I mean, they're not, for me, and I'm not just speaking from a convict's perspective, I'm just speaking from being a man. I'm Asian, but I'm able to grow like a lot more facial hair than most of the Asians. So I can get a full beard. As you can see, I got stubs and stuff on. So I've never used magic shave before. And, when I shave, I use a razor. So for these white dudes, regardless if you like their politics or agree with them or not, they were bucking to get some razor blades. And in return, they all got fucked up. They went in, they suited up with their turtle suit. But they're not going in there and just popping the door and coming in on you. Before they go into a sale on you, they're gonna pop that tray slot. They're gonna bring their video cameras over there, with a lieutenant citing the cell and the names of the inmates. And then they're going to tell you, cuff up. They're going to give you 3 direct orders to cuff up. And once you don't cuff up, that's when they resort to the other stuff. Now, but they're not showing the video in the cell to exactly what they're doing to you. The video camera is on side where you can only hear the staff, where you can only hear the lieutenant. And all you're gonna be able to hear on the video, you're just gonna see a bunch of COs and you hear a lieutenant or something, stop resisting, stop resisting. This is the last direct order. I'm giving you an order. So it's only mostly audio from the perspective of a viewer. They stick that canister into you and they shoot you with that shit. And I think I've shared with you before, I've been sprayed with that stuff on a few occasions. And I don't even know how they can justify using that shit on humans or even on animals. When that stuff is sprayed, it turns your whole cell orange. There's no breathing. Your skin is burning. And, in my particular incident, when they came and extract me, because we was bucking for a Christmas bag, when they sprayed me, like right in the face, some of it got on the ceiling. And just between the time of that and before they popped the door and came in and beat my ass, you can see the paint dripping from the ceiling, from the orange chemical that was sprayed on there. You can see the paint, the ceiling bubbling up. Like, have you ever used peroxide on a wound and you pour it on your wound and your wound starts foaming and bubbling up? That's what the ceiling was doing when it came in contact with this chemical that they use on you. So how is that healthy to be used on a human being? But not only that, if that OC doesn't subdue you, doesn't surrender you, and forces you to come up and cuff up in the tray, then they go to the bean bags. These are shotguns, bean bags with pellets the size of marbles. Yeah, they're rubber, but they hurt like a bitch. And when they shoot you, I don't care where you're hiding at in the cell. These bean bags, these little pebbles that they're shooting into you is getting a ricochet off of everything in the cell until it finds a soft spot to land, which is your body. Now, if your ass is still going hard, then they bring the next thing in, which is a concussion grenade. I've been in Beaumont where they use concussion grenades on the yard. And I've been in Beaumont where I'm on another yard that they're shooting a concussion grenade on. And that shit still impacts your fucking brain and your eardrums. So just imagine, and they don't have a concussion grenade that's designed to be used in a cell as opposed to the ones that they're using on an open yard. It's the same concussion grenade. And they're shooting that bitch into a cell, a 8x10 cell. So just imagine what that shit is doing to your brain, what that shit is doing to your eardrums. And these are the tools that they deem reasonable and justifiable to use against you. Well, the CEO told me that they spent over 20 hours going to cell by cell. Every white boy that was bucking for a razor, they went and extracted them out of their cell, fucked them up. And at the end of the day, when I got there, this was before my time, when I got there, we still had magic shave. We were still never given razor. But like I said, regardless of how you feel about these white boys and their politics and their racial animosity and all that extra shit, you have to respect them for trying to do something that would have benefited everybody. You know, regardless if you were Mexican, Black, Native American, white, they were trying to get razors so we can use razors. You know, when I had to shave, because, you know, when you're on the list to go get clipper, you know, to use the clipper or toenail clipper or hair clipper, it might be months before they pull you out to go do that. But during those months in between, you know, your facial hair, your hair is growing. And some people might not like that to have facial hair, you know, especially, you know, to that extreme. And I like to keep my hair short after I couldn't grow my hair out long anymore because, you know, it's thinning on the top. I like to keep it short. And my haircut is just a butt. I put on the number 1 and I run it through and I'm done. But so on this particular incident, I try to use Magic Shave. Like I said, I've never seen Magic Shave before. I've heard about it, but I've never had the need to use it until I got to the Smooth. And when you open that shit up, it just smells foul. It's like real chemically, and I don't know, it's not something I'm like, ooh, let me use some Magic Shave, you know? So, of course, I asked a few of the blacks that I knew from other spot, like, how do I properly use this? Because I guess some people can put it on there for a few seconds, while other people need to put it on there a little longer. So my first experience with the Magic Shave was, you know, I lather up my head, put it all on my head, you know, let it there. And they're like, yeah, you gotta let it sit for like a minute or 2 minutes or whatever. But while that shit is on your head, your scalp is heating up and it's kind of like burning. And it was to the point where, like, I don't know if I want to leave that up there any longer so it burns up my scalp. So to get your hair off, we just take our ID card and we just scrape it, you know, scrape the Magic Shave off our head, and the hair just like comes off without any resistance. Well, after I scraped my head off with my ID card, I rinsed it out. It was a little tender, you know, like I said, it's my first time using it. So after I cleaned my head off, I looked in the mirror, and our mirror is nothing but just a stainless steel slab. It's on the wall. Some of it is so bad that you can't even see your reflection. Some of them are better, depending on, you know, the people living in that cell prior to you, what they were doing. They were scrubbing it with the orange pad to clean their cells or whatever. Anyway, so after I rinsed my hair off and everything, I see that there were still patches that I had missed on my head. So I'm just like, damn, I really don't want to put that shit on again. But at the same time, I don't want to be walking around with freaking patches on my head. So one of the black dudes I was talking to, his name is Ricardo from DC. I was in Atwater with him. I ran into him and Rob that was that had jumped it off with the Midwest and DC when I was there in Atwater. And like I said, I ran into a lot of people that I was in prior places with. So Ricardo tells me, yeah, just apply it back on. So I did as I was instructed. I put another freaking layer of Magic Shave back on my head so that I can get the rest of the pieces. And I waited for like a minute. I waited till where I could stand it because, you know, that shit is burning your head. I don't know what the hell is in that Magic Shave, but it's burning your head. So I end up, you know, after however long, I end up taking my ID card and scraping that shit off. But this time, just because I guess I already had the Magic Shave on there just a few minutes ago, and now I applied a second, you know, a second time, I was peeling my freaking skin off my scalp. Like, that shit was fucked up. I mean, I got all the hair off my head, but man, like when I was touched, after I rinsed my head, you know, I rinsed it in cold water, so I couldn't really feel the burn and the sting. But after a while, like, you know, I can feel like my head tingling, and it's like you know, like when you have jalapeno on your fingers and you touch your eyes or something, or you touch your genitals, you know, that little burning sensation. I had that, and I'm like, what the fuck? So I go and I'm tapping my head, and I can feel like tender spots on there. And I look in the mirror, I scrape like my scalp, you know, and the next few days it started drying up, and I just had scabs on my top of my head. That was my experience with Magic Shave. But you know, I got efficient in learning how to use it because, like I said, we're denied basic hygienic stuff in the SMU program. We're locked down in the cell. I want to say 23-1, but 23-1 is not accurate because 23-1 is saying that you spend 23 hours in your cell and you get an hour of rec. But your hour of rec is only from Monday through Friday. And it's only from Monday through Friday if nothing happens, if they don't have an excuse not to pull you out for rec. So basically, you're in your cell 24/7. You know, like I don't sit here at home thinking about the time that I've spent, but when I share my stories with you guys, it's hard not to remember these things and feel them again. You know, of all the prisons that I've been to, my time in Lewisburg has been the most miserable. And that's not because I'm just in a cell all day long, because I've been in the SHU for 2 years at a time. I've been locked down in the cell for, you know, the longest thing I've ever did just in a cell by myself was 28 months. So I'm accustomed to doing time in the SHU to build, you know, program myself in there to where I don't go crazy. You know, regardless of where I'm at, I don't take naps. My routine in the SMU program is I'm up at 5:30. 5 o'clock, 5:30, I'm up. They're feeding us between 5:30 and 6:30. Depending on what range they start on, that depends on when you get your food. From 6 in the morning, I jump back and forth between NPR and Democracy Now!, which is a local broadcast. After that, it's lunch. After I eat lunch, we go out for an hour of rec. When we come back in from the hour of rec, me and my cellie would take turns taking a bird bath. A bird bath, you know, in there you get a styrofoam cup. You trade it in once a week. If your cup gets cracked, if it gets broken, you're shit out of luck. And you're just sitting on the toilet, you know, you hang your sheet up across the bunk so your cellie's not looking at you or whatever, or to have a little privacy, or your cellie just turns his back or whatever, you know, courtesy. And you're filling up your little cup with ice cold water and you're bird bathing, because showers only come in 3 times a week, and it's at 6 o'clock in the morning on the tier that I was on. Who the fuck's waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning to go take a shower in a freezing ass cold shower, then have to go to rec out later? So the whole time I was there, the 10 months I was there, I probably went and took 3 showers. Outside of that, I just had my routine. When I come back in, I just take a bird bath. And between taking a bird bath and cleaning up our cell, it's about an hour long. So, you know, after that, I sit down and I write a letter to my wife. You know, I wrote her a letter every single day that I was in the SMU. When I mean every single day, I mean every single day. My time between 1:30, 2 o'clock to about 5 is just me talking to my wife through letters, because I could no longer use the phone. So for 2 years, from the time I went to the SMU, from the time I went to the SHU till I left the SMU, I was not able to ever call home and speak to my family or speak to my wife. So my line of communication was letter, and I committed myself to writing her every single day. And for me, that was therapeutic for me. It was a time that I could escape from the cell, from my confinement, and be able to just lose myself in a conversation that I was having with my wife in that particular time. You know, doing SHU time, being in these programs, like I said, you have to find your own way to adjust. You have to find your own routine. Because if you're just sitting there watching the paint dry, watching the clock tick, it's gonna drive you insane. And I've seen that happen to a lot of people in a penitentiary, where they didn't know how to adjust, they didn't know how to cope, and they lose their mind. Welcome to the USP.